Hey, this is Mike. Thank you so much for choosing this video. Today we're checking out a 2022 Volkswagen Tiguan in the SEL R-Line trim level. Now I did an R-Line black a few months ago in the Tiguan, and I did a full overview of it. It was a different color, it had different wheels, and I wasn't able to do a test drive. So I'm going to do a test drive in this one. Also, this one does not have the third row, so you can see what it looks like without the third row if you don't need that option. This vehicle is sitting on 255/40 Pirelli Scorpion tires wrapped around 20-inch alloy wheels with a gloss black finish. So like I mentioned, this is a different color. This is the Atlantic Blue metallic exterior color. And of course, this one has the Titan Black leather interior. And it has the same 2.0 liter turbocharged stratified injection engine, dual overhead cam 4-cylinder, and it's mated to the 8-speed automatic transmission. Now this is the 4Motion, so this is an all-wheel drive vehicle. The biggest difference between the previous one I did, the black, R-Line black, and this one is that this one does not have the third row. So this has quite a bit more cargo space back here. Now this one does have the retractable shade, so good, move that out of the way. Has the ability to lower that second row seats using these switches here. Has tie downs, or these will be a bag holder, but it does have tie downs as well. You see it right over there. There's a tie down. There's one over there. It's like a chrome tie down. Then you have another latch for lowering the second row seat. It's a 60/40 split, so you can fold down this side or that side. You can actually fold the center part as well. There's a separate button right there to the left of the center headrest, in which you can fold that center part down. So you can add to your cargo space while still maintaining some passenger space. So yeah, a lot more cargo space back here. It does not have the third row. The third row is kind of small anyway, so unless you really have like small children or something back here, it's just gonna stay folded down anyway on the third row option. But this one also has the spare tire as well. So you can lift up this section as a spare tire and tools. And overall, this is a good option for people that don't need a third row. So like I said, you can fold these seats down. It's a 60/40 split system. So first we can go ahead and let's go ahead and fold down this one. And you'll see it kind of like flaps down. In this particular case, you do have to move that front seat forward in order for it to go all the way down. So, you know, these latches aren't like super duper useful sometimes, but they do give you the ability to kind of quickly get the seat out of the way. If you're like trying to shove a box or something in here, it just won't quite fit, so you can just quickly fold them down. So it's a 60/40 split. Technically, it's even more than that. It's a 40/40/20, so the center part will fold down separately. But basically, when you fold it all down, you have a really wide open space. It's not a completely flat floor, but it's pretty close to that, and it gives you a lot of additional space back here when you don't need any passengers in the second row. First things first, let's turn this auto stop start feature, stop start system, idle stop, whatever you want to call it, off. Not something that I enjoy having on because it turns the engine off every time I come to a complete stop. And sometimes it's an issue. I mean, when I stop briefly for a stop sign, or, you know, just maybe at a red light, like if I'm behind another car and they're kind of slow and I have to stop for just a brief second, then, I don't know, sometimes it causes an issue, but I just don't like it in general. So when I accelerate with this vehicle, it is best to keep the RPMs from not going too high, because if you like floor it and it's just like totally winding the engine out, then you're kind of getting past the optimal range as far as torque and horsepower. So if it feels like you have more acceleration by keeping it in a more reasonable range. You don't want to be flooring your vehicle anyway all the time. That's not good for it, but it tends to have a nice acceleration when you just kind of drive it normally. Also, the 8-speed transmission feels pretty good. I mean, it handles the power, and with all those shift points, 8 speeds, it's able to find an appropriate gear ratio for the power of the engine. And hopefully you'll notice, usually the camera makes it sound louder, but it's a relatively quiet vehicle. Other than, say, road noise, their exterior noises are isolated quite well. The engine and road noise is the only thing that you typically hear. Can't talk today. But yeah, like a nice road like this where it's not that rough of a road, there's not any bumps or anything to speak of, it's not a lot of road noise. So like when motorcycles or trucks go by, it does a decent job of keeping those noises out. I love this, the way this screen is. It's customizable, and I like this map. Being able to see what's ahead of you right there on the dash, so I can keep an eye on my speed, and I'll know what gear I'm in. I can see my how much fuel I have, that kind of stuff. Even a clock, digital clock. It even has the speed limit sign, the last speed limit sign that it passed. It shows up here. But having that big map right there in the very center, I'm able to keep an eye on the curves in the road, that kind of thing. So like right now, this guy's kind of driving slow, and let's say I wanted to pass. Well, I can kind of like briefly just glance at the road there ahead of me on this map as I'm going, and say, okay, well, I have an opportunity to pass after maybe 2 or 3 curves here, and then I can kind of like keep my distance until I'm ready to pass, and then I can go ahead and pass, especially if I'm not familiar with the roads. And even when you are familiar with the roads, some of the twists and turns that you drive regularly, you don't really have a aerial view perception of it, like looking at the map. So it's kind of interesting and fun to be able to see the map. Also, it kind of gives you other information, like there's actually like lakes and streams and stuff that you wouldn't necessarily think about that is actually near where you're driving, and it gives you little points of interest and that kind of thing. So having this digital screen, this high resolution right there, it's easy to see. So instead of glancing over to this screen, say you want to have the map on that screen, you can have that, but this one seems to work better for me anyway. And of course you can change the views here, get more or less information, have more like a regular speedometer and that kind of stuff, while still maintaining the little map in the middle too, which is pretty neat. Now the fuel economy is rated like average, or like 24 or something on the window sticker, and so I've been getting about 23, 24, average once I drive it for a little while. Right now we're averaging, since we started the vehicle, 21.2. Well, we've only been driving a few minutes, and it's kind of been a little bit of a slow poke and stop and go type trip, I guess you can say. So I think the main takeaway with driving the Tiguan is it's so easy to drive. It has virtually no significant blind spots. The acceleration is good. It's not like a race car or anything like that, but it is good for a commuting vehicle. You can get out on the highway 70 miles an hour, and it's stable. It feels comfortable. The seats, me and other people who's ridden in this vehicle, nobody's complained about the seats, front or back. And so I'm a little bit picky, sometimes with certain seats. So this one is kind of passed the test for me anyway. and everybody else that's been in the vehicle hadn't had any problems. And it's very stable as far as like, so right, this is a pretty rough road right here. Has a lot of bumps and stuff. And as far as like cornering and going over bumps, see, it has a little bit of a stiff suspension, which is good sometimes because it's not like annoyingly stiff though. It's not like really jarringly gonna hurt your back or just, it's not a big deal. But the stiff suspension, what I'm talking about is that it's not rolling in the corners, it's not swaying, it's not, you know, taking a huge nosedive when you hit the brakes and then tilting back when you accelerate, that kind of thing. It stays pretty level when you're driving, and which is nice. Some vehicles, you know, they have a little bit of a different suspension, and you can still feel the bumps either way. It's just funny. Some vehicles have this like really like soft suspension, or supposed to, but all it does is tends to magnify the bumps instead of actually making them go away. So this one does a good job. You know, as far as driving around, you know, it's comfortable, good visibility, good braking, good acceleration, and decent fuel economy. I mean, I think that a vehicle like this really should have better fuel economy. Don't really understand why it's not, you know, like 30 or something. And that's the way a lot of vehicles are. A lot of vehicles have like, it seems like tiny engines and turbocharged and stuff like that, and the fuel economy is just, I don't know, not what I think it could be anyways. And my reasoning for that is because I was getting like, with a Dodge Challenger, I was getting like 27, 28 miles per gallon, 305 horsepower, rear wheel drive, much like just a heavy vehicle. I mean, it's not a small vehicle by no means. Excellent acceleration, just tear the roads up with a V6, okay? And a lot of people laugh at that, but it is true. The V6 Challenger is very strong. So a big V6 with no turbo, getting better gas mileage, and, you know, handling better and all that stuff because it's rear wheel drive. So, you know, coming out of a vehicle like that, which is cheaper too, that's another factor. Do you think that as far as similar weight vehicle, you would get similar fuel economy and the power? That's another thing, significantly more power too. So that's, you know, it's interesting. I'm not really understanding the direct injection turbocharged engines that are getting poor fuel economy. Now the Honda Accord, and I know this is a different vehicle, it's an SUV and stuff, but the Honda Accord, you know, is, you know, it's getting close to 40 miles per gallon, and it's faster, and it is, you know, similar, or basically the same passenger space as this vehicle. So interesting, just thinking about different vehicles and what the potential could be, and, you know, what the limitations are. Now this is a vehicle that, you know, you're sitting on you're not sitting on the ground like the Honda Accord. You're sitting on the ground almost. This one is a lot more, you have a higher stance, easier to get in and out of. You know, you could argue more comfortable vehicle, and a lot of technology and stuff as well.